The war on the middle class continues. Its greatest battle of 2011 will be the Korea Free Trade Agreement. If that agreement was as it's been summarized, then all of the arguments you've just heard would indicate why that agreement should be rejected. But the agreement is not what you think it is. It is not an agreement just to allow South Korean-made products into the United States. It is an agreement that will allow North Korean-made products and Chinese labor and Chinese products into the United States duty-free. It represents a total victory for those who want to exploit the U.S. market. And from a Chinese perspective, it means incredible access to the U.S. market without making a single concession or even enforcing and agreeing to the concessions they've already made. The three parts of this agreement you have to look at are the sourcing rules, also known as rules of origin, the territorial definition, and the South Korean guest worker program. They have no chance of passing this agreement if you'll tell the American people what's really in it. It could go either way if it's viewed as an agreement to allow South Korean-made products into the United States. What are these three specific rules? First, the rules of origin. This is not for products made in South Korea. It's for products made 65% in China or 65% in North Korea and 35% in South Korea. Free access to the U.S. market. Now, opening our borders to Chinese goods, obvious economic component implications. As to North Korean goods, we will be caught in a catch-22. Our national security laws say that if it's 1% made in North Korea, we stop it at the port of Los Angeles. This agreement says South Korea is entitled to that 65% North Korean-made good coming into the United States duty-free. What will happen? We'll stop the goods because we will follow our law. And South Korea will be entitled under this agreement to take back every concession they've made through whatever countervailing measures, whatever punitive measures they want to impose. Now, when I say 65%, that's the percentage applicable to steel, electronics, autos and auto parts. Different percentages for different products. In this example, it wouldn't matter. If it's 1% North Korean, we stop it. The second issue is the territorial. You're aware that 6 miles north of the DMZ is the Kaesong industrial zone. This is the subject of a op-ed that was published today in the LA Times that we have for distribution. The goal here is to tell the American Congress and people that this agreement applies only to goods produced at least 35% south of the DMZ. But in South Korea, particularly in their business interests, they want those Kaesong goods coming. Now, that's 40,000 workers who are paid almost nothing. Actually, they're paid absolutely nothing. The money goes to the North Korean government. You can imagine the national security aspects of that. Plans to increase this to 100,000, 200,000 workers. Now, Annex 22 of the agreement is deliberately vague. These are smart people. They know how to write clear sentences. They've chosen not to. That say future discussions will determine whether Kaesong and similar industrial zones are considered South Korean territory for purposes of this agreement. And then vague language as to whether any future agreement on that issue would have to be approved by Congress or not. Why is it vague? Because they don't want to tell us the answer is no, but the answer really is no. What have I done? In early February, and you'll see that in the packet, sent a letter to the President and the USTR asking for clarification. The response has been very loud. That is to say, there's been no response at all. and you can be sure there will be no meaningful response. Finally, the guest worker program. Let's say those goods are 65% made in China. They come to South Korea for the additional 35% of the work. That work doesn't have to be done by South Koreans. It can be done by Chinese guest workers in barracks. So this agreement opens us up to North Korean-made goods or to the loss of any supposed advantage of the agreement if we block the North Korean-made goods. It allows the executive branch, or this administration or the next one, to decide that the Kaesong facility is to be considered part of South Korea. And it allows for goods made in South Korea by Chinese guest workers to come into our country duty-free.